All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
Jake, who are we talking to today?
Today, we are going to interview Jackie and Two Feathers from KMSR1700am.com. And they have a radio station, and they're going to tell us a little bit about that. And Matt, why don't you let us know how we kind of ran into these folks?
Well, that's a great question. So how do we run into anyone? I don't know. So, but what
you forgot to hit the brakes. That's what happened.
That's what it was. That's right. Is they reached out to me one day and asked if it would be fine if they put Sabbath Lounge on their radio station, and I was like, yes, that would be great. And that's kind of how we met. And then I immediately, pretty quick, I was like, we'd also like to talk to you. We want to find more about the radio and how it began. And I thought it was fascinating. Jake and I had actually had a conversation recently about, hey, somebody should make a 24/7 Torah radio. And well, here you have.
Isn't it funny how that works?
It's funny how that works. Exactly.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you guys on tonight.
Shalom,
Yeah,
and welcome. Welcome. We're really glad to be here. Yeah. We really are. We really are. And it was kind of a neat meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the response was quick. That was another thing I want to mention. You know, I just not much longer after I typed and hit send, it came back. And I'm kidding. But it did. It come back really quick.
Because sometimes you're waiting. For others to get back with you. People are busy.
There's some people that I'm still waiting for after several messages and no returns.
They're probably like, oh, this is probably a scam. Who is this guy?
Naturally, they may be thinking that, but this might help dispel some of those things too.
You never know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we had some questions for you, and if that's fine, we'll dive right into some questions.
That sounds great.
That's how you get to know people, right?
That's right.
That is.
Well, we'd like you to tell us a little bit about your family. And, one of the questions I always ask people is, how did you go from Christian normie to what you're doing today?
I know, isn't it crazy? Well, it's a pretty interesting story. Mine actually starts in the 90s.
Yeah. I guess you were actually keeping Sabbath and eating clean, when we met.
Right. And I was in the 90s, but I didn't do much else. I didn't understand much else, and was studying, discovered, well, when you die, you're not going to be playing harps on a cloud, things like that. Did discover that too.
That
and a
was
few
one
other
thing
things.
That
was the first thing that hit me.
Yeah. Your interest to really dive in.
Right. I was actually
you started questioning some things.
Yeah. I was employed in a Catholic church when I discovered that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of interesting. But so through study, I discovered that's not in the scripture. That's not in the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys, it happened to you too. He opened your eyes, and it took a little while for mine to open more, but still from the 90s, I'd say that's kind of how it happened for me.
Did you kind of kick back on it with the stuff you were seeing?
Well, basically, it took a while for it to take, but it took.
Mm-hmm.
As far as keeping the Sabbath and as far as eating clean, that was really easy. I had no issues with that. And it was something that you said one time that kind of drove it home too. Like we were talking about lobster, and you said go ahead.
Yeah, but that was way later.
It was way later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
He's talking about you right now.
Yeah.
You had
an
interest, and you were seeing some things, and you were testing things.
Right. And I was a broadcast engineer for years, and I have an electronics degree as well as 3 music degrees.
Mm-hmm.
They mix well, actually. But the one thing I did a lot of was listening to shortwave, and I didn't like talking much on shortwave. I just liked listening. But I would look for actual programming. I don't even like that word, but That's just what I called it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found this little guy, he was no longer with us, in Waxahachie, Texas, who used to broadcast on shortwave. And he was David J. Smith. He was, what was his ministry? I think he was Church of God Evangelistic something. No, he came on. He was a breakaway from the Church of God.
Worldwide Church of
Yeah,
God.
he was a break away from
Yeah,
that. And they kind of got rid of him saying, you're going to hell, because he was studying the book of Enoch and a few other books that they didn't approve of. And so that I found that interesting. He was kind of a catalyst that helped kick me in the rear end to get me moving on this thing. And
I'd say, just based on the stories between you and me, I think he had a big impact as an influence that was pushing you in the right direction. Was everything perfect? No. But,
no, there were things I didn't agree with. But again,
everything has a season. And
look at all the things that he had right is what I was thinking.
He definitely was inspiring to you.
Right. Very, very much so. And he was pretty popular in, I guess, the 70s and 80s.
We're dating ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
But anyway, when we met, that's when things really took off. But
yeah. Well, I as well came out of a Baptist church. And then years ago, I thought, oh man, all this Baptist, Protestant, all this denominations, this is man-made stuff.
And so she went to a denominational church.
Right. We thought, well, that's how we get out of that. We go non-denominational. And, always had a love for the Lord, back in the day. Knew him. That's how I knew him. I knew Jesus. I knew the Lord in what the church was teaching.
Yeah, but you had a love for him at a very young age.
Mm-hmm. Very. And, I knew there was always something unique and special about him. And I always wanted to be a part of that. And, but my life kind of changed. And as I look back, Yehovah was definitely rearranging my life. I've never heard of Torah. I thought that was the movie Torah. I thought, wow, what a great movie, right? But little did I know what happened. My life, my career got, yanked out from under me. It got changed. Relocations were happening that I thought never were going to happen. Going through I fell into a divorce, after almost 30 years. I'm like, well, I didn't, that wasn't in my vocabulary as well. And it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And looking through all of it, he was purging me. He was purging the life. He was purging the world. He was purging my flesh. He was purging all kind of things. And I didn't know it. Was I hungry for him? Yeah. Was I praying to him and begging him to help me? Yes. At the level of understanding of where I was.
Yeah. I was doing the same thing. I was really hungry too. I guess, I don't know if you guys have any experiences that are a little, I don't know.
Visions?
Yeah, visions and things like that. But that's also something that happened to me back in 1980. And so
tell me that vision of the island.
Well, that was one of them, but
that was, to me, I think that was profound.
That was a big one. Yeah, I did. I had a vision back in 1980 when that was after 80. It was about 87. Mm-hmm. And one back in 1980. Yeah, but everyone has these things. I don't know. Not everyone does, but I don't know. There's something to them. I found myself going through this large gate on an island, and large white gates in this island. There were thousands of people there, and I knew every single one of them. And I didn't know I knew so many people. And bumping into them, and some guy bumped into me, and I said, "Hey, I know you from somewhere." And he looked at me and he said, "You know of me, but you don't know me."
Right.
And you know who that was.
Yeah.
It was. And then the people that were all around me were like, "Hey, he shouldn't talk to you that way. Who does he think he is? You see what's going on, the devil egging you on." And that was the moment. And I was in the Trinitarian church, whatever you want to call it, but that was the moment that things changed. And I went tearing off of that island in this vision.
Now, as he went through the gates, remember the gates were closing.
They were closing.
And you followed him. You made it out at the last second.
Yeah, I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah.
So that was one of the visions. And I've had others, and I don't know, you guys may have had visions too, but that had a profound effect on me. And that's the one that took a while to get me to the point where I heard David Smith, and was like, whoa, I understand what this guy's talking about. And then you crack the book and everything you're reading, you know how it is, like when you first started reading Genesis, after he opened your eyes, all of a sudden you understand everything in there, well, that you need to understand, because every time I read it, there's something new, but you understand what's going on. And when you see these things, it kind of floors you. It floors me.
Yeah, there's certain keys that kind of trigger things, and it opens up a lot of things at once.
Yeah.
Kind of a milestone.
Well, and
you're right.
We're grateful that he's, taking the time to, put these little things
little by little
to slap us, to kind of bump our heads and say, you guys, I'm trying to get your attention here. But as my life had changed in a relocation, and like I said, my family has, health food store at the time, and still going today. But my ex-husband and I at the time, we relocated our farm and everything. We were about three hours or so up north outside of Indianapolis. So we moved down here, actually closer to my parents at the time, which ended up being a blessing. Like I said, I didn't know. I just thought my life was falling apart. Don't we all? And I just was going through heck. And it was a distinctive time from day one to, like 7 years later. And that 7-year period, we always think of that. I always, he's always talked to me, and I've always seen like numbers and patterns and things. And so I'm thinking, okay, 7, it's completion, it's perfection, things like that. And I thought at the end of 7 years, because I was struggling to try to learn how to work with my parents in a family business and things like that. And it was a complete change from where I was at before. And, I'm not sure it was what I wanted to do. I didn't know if it was something I wanted to do, but I had to make a transition. And so then, finally after 7 years, I just kind of, got through the stress and the rough ride and the storms, basically all in my head, the adversaries trying to just, convince me of other things. And I just kind of went like this. I just kind of like brushed my brow, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was in the way. I'm like, I get it. It was me.
Yeah.
I was in the way. And I thought, and then when I turned around, I went through a 2-year divorce, after almost 30 years. And here again, was that hard? Yeah. But, was it growing? Oh my, I wouldn't change anything from the past, because it has helped to form and groom me for where I'm at. And basically how to get in Torah, I had no clue what a Torah was. But all I knew is after 2 years, I finally, I finally was at a place where, okay, who's going to do right by me more than my heavenly Father? Who loves me more? Who has my path straight, and figured out. And it's like, so I finally got to the place, and I tell everybody this, and some of them on a fellowship, you've heard this, but I didn't get on my knees. I just fell on my face, and I begged him, and I told him, I says with tears, I'm like, I no longer want what I want for me anymore. I said, I just want what you want for me, Heavenly Father. And I called him Lord, because that's all I knew. And I'm like, whatever you tell me, whatever you show me, I says, I'm yours. I'm all in. I'm over me. and I meant it sincerely. And it was shortly after that, Jackie had come into my path, through his sister at our store, who I'd known for like 7 years too. She was one of my patients in the clinic. And we just, one thing turned into another. And I thought, well, this guy, he's not my type, but he's a nice guy. And I knew he kept the Sabbath. And I'm like, well, what's the harm in that?
Well, what's a Sabbath?
And I had heard, people talk about this 7-day Sabbath. All I ever thought of was Seventh-day Adventist. And I'm like, but then I heard evangelists on TV and stuff talk. And they would say, yes, it's true. The Saturday's the 7th day, it's the Sabbath, but whatever day you want to keep, it's okay. As long as you set aside a day.
That made a ding.
Yeah. The ding went off, and, I'm like, oh, something's weird. And I'm like, I need to file this back here, because that just sounded odd to me. But I'm telling you, I didn't have it in me to figure out how to study or pursue what that 7th-day Sabbath was. I had a major, major love and desire to
there's someone that we
follow
know,
him.
Someone that we know that was going to try was going to try and set you up to try and straighten me out. Right?
Oh yeah,
just someone that we know.
And people have heard these things before, but yet, it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, if he hadn't have put, Jackie in my path, I would have never found Torah. And
well, some things were happening. There was a guy that kept talking about it, who is a Torah keeper.
Yeah, I had a guy that was a part of one of the Church of God ministries and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he stood at my counter in the store all the time, telling me about the Sabbath and, Easter and Christmas, that's not in the Bible.
Right.
And man, we had the best conversations because, I'm not confrontational. And
but
I'm like,
she had a
and I'm
growing
like, hey, that's
disdain
cool.
for Christmas.
But I couldn't tell you why.
Well, I want to tell you,
I was keeping these things. I didn't have a defense for why I didn't believe him.
Well, I want to tell him about bonfire number 3.
Yeah. Well, eventually he started helping me with
bonfire number 3. Remember that.
Eventually he started helping me with my security system at the store,
It took forever for me to do that.
And him and his brother, he's a twin.
Yeah.
Now he's not an identical twin. He's a paternal twin.
My sister volunteered me to work on her
the camera system.
On her camera system, her security system.
He didn't want to do it.
I didn't. I didn't.
Well, anyways, this is how our friendship came about. I met him once before, whatever. And it's like, just another guy in the store, just nothing, it just wasn't fazing me. And so him and his brother camped a lot. And I live right out here. We're out here by the Clark State Forestry here. So I camp and trail ride all the time. Him and his brother camped all the time. So they kept inviting me to these bonfires, and I'm just out here on my patio. I'm divorced now. What do you do? So I'm out here studying the Bible and just praying.
Right.
And I get this call, hey, Two Feathers, we got a bonfire. We're camping out by you. Come out and see us. I'm like, I ain't got nothing else to do, So I went out there and hung out with the brothers, and
we ended up talking until like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, we talked each other's ears off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then we
it's just too funny.
We did another bonfire, right?
Yeah, there's 3 bonfires.
We sat and talked just as long. We couldn't stop talking to each other.
And I'm telling you these patterns, but when we got to bonfire number 3, I was kind of pressed to confront. I was pressed to confront, Jackie about the Sabbath.
Right. From a friend.
He's a Pharisee. He keeps the Sabbath. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to go there.
You've heard that, right? Right? Okay.
He says, I'm not going to go. I told him, I says, I'm not going to go there unless the Lord guides me. I says, I'm not going to go there. I said, it would have to be him,
and
that
everything gets
would put
quiet
this
all
together.
Of a sudden.
So we're actually hanging out at this bonfire number 3, right? And he's on one side, I'm on the other. And, we talked about everything, his mom and all kind of stuff. And man, it just got quiet. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking down at this bonfire and I'm like, Lord, I ain't going there. I ain't talking about this. No way. Ain't no way. I ain't going to bring it up. If you want to talk about it, you're going to have to, and I'm like, I'm battling this in my head, looking at this
and
fire.
And she finally came out in her own head and she says, he's going to have to bring it up. I'm not doing it.
Exactly. And the next thing you know,
I rear up out of my chair, even realizing what I'm doing.
Oh,
and I said,
I looked over. I'm like, oh Lord, we're going there, aren't we? And we're just kind of like, But he reared up. He knew. He just knew what this was about.
I knew what it was about because that same friend had sicked other people on me as well. It's ministers and the like.
So he had this big defense about he keeps the Sabbath, right. And he told me why and talked about the scriptures and stuff. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know a whole lot, but I'm like, that sounds biblically sound to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that sounds good. And and then, he kind of finally sat back down in his chair and calmed down.
We were chilled,
It was kind of funny. They are Italian families, so if you don't know anything about Italians, Italians are fun. They can be loud. They can be loud, kind of exciting,
and sound angry.
I know I don't like it, but I'm Italian.
Are you really?
That's cool. I knew it.
Well, I'm Italian and Cherokee.
Yeah. But anyway.
Anyway.
So it just kind of got really quiet. I mean, we're talking, it's like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and I was camping during the week with my horses and trail riding. And so there's literally was nobody there. And then it just got quiet. And
so I guarantee you that had a profound effect on her.
Yeah,
she couldn't get these things out of her mind. So I know y'all was working on her, and it wasn't long.
Yeah. And then the next thing, during that moment of quiet and silence.
Okay. That was
this is a really big deal, because I think this was how y'all interceded and connected our hearts. Because remember, he wasn't my type. Because there's still a part of me, you're still flesh.
I was a bigger boy then than I am now. And, she was much more fit than I. And she could,
but anyways,
if she tried to, she probably couldn't put her arms around me back then. I was pretty big. But still.
All right. So we had this conversation. It got quiet. It was very peaceful. I even felt this peace that I'm like, I couldn't explain what was happening.
It was at that time that the Spirit swooped down over us through the trees, and I saw it.
He saw it.
And there was no shadow from the trees at all.
Explain it. You got to tell him what it looked like.
Well, it was white and bright and had almost like feathered edges, the cape, and it was huge, beautiful and big. Took up the whole campsite,
covered the woods, covered the camp, covered everything.
And there was even a sound. And I turned to her and I said, "Did you see that?"
Or did you see that? Yeah.
And she didn't know what I was talking about, and so I zipped my lip and I said, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, it was for him. No. And what found
just happened.
It was for his eyes to see it, but I believe it was a test for me to believe it, that my future husband's eyes, what he saw, for me to have that faith to believe that.
But I didn't even bring it up to her for a day or two.
Right.
And when I brought it up.
But after that moment, I knew, and the next day, we just couldn't keep off the phone. We talked each other's ears off for about a whole week, 7 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, something's going on here. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, this man is saying everything right, and yet, I'm like, the wires are crossed.
I had thrown in the towel on relationships. Yeah. I did not want to mess with that anymore. I was done. I no more failures. Thank you very much. And, yeah, but y'all had other plans.
Yeah, and so that's how it started, and we realized, okay, there's that y'all's in this. There's something going on, and the first thing we had to get straightened out was,
Torah.
Basically my verb at the time was religion,
right?
And that was what I was calling it, because I was still in a Sunday church.
I decided while we were still together that I'd go and sit with her and I would just study what I know.
He did.
While she was processing this stuff, while she'd be sitting in a pew and you were thinking something one day.
Well, he just kept telling me, he says, you just go read the Bible, continue praying, because he knew he could see that, y'all was orchestrating things in my life. He could tell I was hungry. There was something happening. There was a transition happening. But here again, I had no idea what I was asking Yehovah for, the Lord. I had no idea what I was headed for. I didn't know what. I just said, I just want what you want for me. And so, and whatever he shows me and whatever that is, just show me and I'm yours. I'm in, right? But I didn't know this was coming. And so we started talking about this Sabbath. It was probably the biggest thing for me to take and wrap my head around. And so I did. I went, I prayed. I kept digging into scriptures even more and more and more. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at the same scriptures and I'm like, oh my, they didn't teach me this. I never heard this before, but I had, but I didn't teach me this. And it's like, Yeshua's always like, if you love me, keep my commandments, keep my commandments, on the seventh day, I'm like, oh my gosh, they didn't teach me this.
Right.
So that little file that I filed in my head back in the day when I heard those evangelists saying, yeah, it's true. The seventh day is on Saturday, but whatever day you want to keep, it's okay. Right.
That's what they were saying.
That little file I pulled out.
And so one day we were sitting in a pew.
Well, I was there. I got there first before you, and you showed up, and I looked at you and I'm like, what are you doing here? And he did. He told me, I'm not going to let you go through this alone. And I'm thinking, what am I going to go through alone? And I'm like, what's happening?
You're not going to go through it alone.
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening. And so I had prayed and prayed and prayed. And so that morning I'm like, okay, because I had to figure out, I didn't want to be in a Sunday church unless I was, unless he proved it to me that I was in the right place on the right day at the right time, kind of thing. So I was praying in my, silently. And this was a new guy, the church was transitioning through pastors. So the pastors were getting up there doing their little interviews and, telling, so everybody could kind of, vote on who they liked, how they preached.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what it was too.
Yeah. People got to like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people got to like you. Don't tell them the truth. Just make them like you. And so anyways, I'm sitting there and I'm praying and I'm like, okay. I said, Heavenly Father, I says, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to tell me, but I know you're going to tell me. I don't know how it's going to come across. I don't know what I'm going to see, what I'm going to hear, but I know I'm going to hear something. I know you will show me some way, some shape or form. I need to know, is this the Sabbath day? And am I supposed to be in this church on the first day of the week? Am I supposed to be, is this where you want me? And so then the preacher got up there and he said, let us bow our head, let's bow our head in prayer. And he gets up there and he says, and I'm 52 at the time. And I had never heard a preacher that in a church where I sat ever tell me anything about
what was
we
about
were
to
in
be
there
said.
on the first day of the week. It was just always Sunday. And I had only heard that while I was going through
has a way of working things out.
I only heard it a couple times while I was going through my divorce, watching evangelist TV, on TV. Yeah. And so he says, Heavenly Father, he says, we thank you that we can come to you and worship you this day on the first day of the week.
Oh,
and I about put my elbow through his rib.
She did put her elbow
because
through
he's like reading his own Bible on his iPad and stuff like that. He wasn't even paying attention. He's just there, hanging out, waiting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was it. And I haven't been back into a Sunday church since then because I asked and he gave me the answer.
Yeah.
And he showed me through the mouth of that preacher that I've never heard in my face ever tell me what day of the week that I was sitting there just worshiping on.
Things were kind of just cascading one after another.
One thing after another.
That
was
when
crazy.
One thing we talked about was food and
oh yeah,
she's
he was
scuba diver.
He was funny. He was already eating clean.
Oh yeah.
I was still
one day she ate a what?
I was still eating on the lobster and stuff like that, but I one day seriously I had to get it figured out, and I started reading the scriptures and stuff like that. And
it wasn't long.
Yeah, it wasn't long. Because he's right. I'm a scuba diver and I lived down in the Keys for a long time and I love to hunt, right? So I'm a country girl. I love to hunt and I love to hunt underwater too. So lobster, man, chasing lobsters was a big fun time, and so I just, I had all these lobsters that I would ship up here and in my freezer. And one day I just sat there with this bug and I'm looking at this lobster and I'm like, what is there in this bug that is worth coming between me and my walk with Jesus?
Right.
Like I said, I knew him as Jesus at the time. What is there in this bug about this bug that's worth coming between me and Jesus? And I'm like,
bug.
Nothing. Yeah. And that was it. I mean, it just
clean from then on.
It stuck because I'm like,
there's same thing happened to you guys.
There's just nothing worth coming between that walk. And I had said, Jesus, you show me, Heavenly Father, you show me, and I'm yours, but you've got to show me.
Right. And
so things were starting to click and come together. He was starting to show me how to study and stuff. And the biggest thing he always told me, because, I was a good girl, right? I was reading my daily devotionals and all this stuff, and it had all these little, inserts about, we don't have the commandments anymore. Jesus is this and that. And he's like, look, he said, they're teaching a false Jesus. And I just, my wires were spinning and I'm like, what is a false Jesus?
Yeah.
And I know, I know now what that false Jesus is.
Right.
Because
it's such a mind meld when you realize you're like,
wow,
literally teaching a different Messiah.
Right.
Exactly.
It's a different Messiah.
But I couldn't process it yet. I was like, I was getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as it just, as the Spirit finally just made that click, I was like, oh man, I got it. And then so I think we dated like 2.5 months. And the only reason I knew it was right, because I mean, like I said, I'm 52, and what were you, 57? And we're just like, if it wasn't for Yahovah ministering to both of us and him seeing the Spirit, the Ruach passing over us, and that real, I mean, I'm telling you, things that were happening to us were real on the spiritual level. And I'm like, this is, you can't fake this.
No, you can't.
And I didn't feel deceived by Satan, but I did feel attacked by him. But it was just, so 2.5 months later, after that, we realized, or he started realizing, I think there's these feasts and things I think we're supposed to be keeping too.
Right. And so we're thinking about feasts. We're thinking about,
so
the
we're like,
appointed
wow,
times.
we're like, okay.
And statue.
And like, what is that? And how does that look? And where we didn't even know what time of the year it was, what we should be looking at. And so we started learning the feast together. We spent a year and a half here at the house, keeping our Shabbat together.
And boy, have we gone through some changes there. Yeah.
And through these past 7 years, we're into our 7th year. We have just the seasons that we've gone through, the tests, the trials, and oh my gosh, and I still feel like a babe.
Oh,
I just still am like,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's an amazing story that you both have, and fascinating. So I do have to put in a plug. This is something you could use. Maybe I think my mic is too hot. I don't know. I can't tell.
Sounds great over here
on my side.
All right. Well, I'm going to call this is bonfire number 3.
Yes.
So. Let me I had that was going to be better in my brain. So let me try this again. So bonfire number 3 is sponsored by KMSRradio.com.
That's right.
Right now. Absolutely. Amen, brother.
That's cute. I like that.
And it has been
you should use that or something.
Oh, well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I do want you guys, it's funny. I've been emailing everybody that's on the list, and
about what?
Well, about asking them to do a little promo. So we definitely
Matt's tailor-made for that.
Yes.
Matt's tailor-made for that.
Oh, I can't wait.
Jake. Just mess.
Good.
So.
Thank you for Jake.
Yeah, I like that
because he's never late.
I like that. So I'll
awesome.
email you the particulars. Yeah,
we'd be happy to do that. So. Well, I want to go on, we looked at, I've got a picture. Well, you can kind of see it on there on the right.
Right.
So 2 Feathers, tell us more about what you do here at Creekside Outpost. What is that? You mentioned a little bit about it while you were talking earlier.
Right. Well, years ago, my mom, she was really sick and ill, and basically her, doctors couldn't figure it out. And basically their options were not options, and they weren't good enough. And so basically I'm going to try to
make a long story short,
really
mom discovered herbs.
Well, no, mom had already been into herbs before she got sick.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so anyways, it was her health that got mom and dad really pursuing it more for a lifestyle change. Okay. And so with that lifestyle change, dad's like, well, we might as well just start a business here somehow. And so there was a local co-op back in the day. Co-ops were big. They still are around, where you can get your organic produce, things of that nature. And so they took it over. Now I moved out. We've been into horses all my life. And so,
but when she turned 18, she took off.
Yeah, I took a couple horses with me, but so they had the horse barn still there. And of course they've been there. They've lived there now. I think we're in their 50th year. So that barn's probably 48 years old, every bit,
Yep.
And I helped dad build it when I was a little girl and things like that. But anyways, they changed all this over, took over the co-op, got into organic produce and things like. One thing morphed into another because of mom's health. She had to eat clean. They were doing all kind of cleanses and blood cleanses and parasite cleanses and all these things. And they realized That's what saved my mom's life. She was dying in the doctor's care. And I'm not foo-fooing the doctors. They have a place.
But,
but in this case,
big pharma do come into play.
In this case,
they are practicing.
Yes.
They are practicing.
Yes.
But in this case, there was no options. It wasn't getting anywhere. And here again, I think it was absolutely the path that our Heavenly Father, wanted them to take this journey. And so
the business began, and it was not only, it was iridology, and it was herbs, and it was a restaurant.
So explain to me what iridology is. I don't know if I understand exactly what that is.
Okay, iridology is just the study of the iris. Okay, I mean, God created us and everything's so intricate. And so there's over 28,000 nerve endings or so that go into the back of the eye. I mean, we're nothing but a roadmap of nerves, right? And so when there's changes that take place in the body that are abnormal, you'll actually see a reflection of a marker or something that's going to show up in a certain mapped area of your eye that's going to correspond to the system, the gland, the organ, whatever.
Right. So if I have a kidney stone, she could look into my eyes, and she'll if I don't even tell her, she'll say, "You're having a problem with one of your kidneys."
You can see some things,
and she knows which one and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're not gonna, it's not like a blood test. You're not gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna look at you and say, wow, look at that, your white blood cell count's down."
Do you look like through an instrument or?
I have a good one. I have a magnifier that's 25 power. All right. And that and a flashlight. And I just get in there. And then I've just got some maps that my mom and dad, like I said, they started this. And as they had these little maps of the eye. Mm-hmm. And as they grew into, not only the health food side of it, the grocery side of it, the produce side, the restaurant, all this stuff, they were busy. Oh, this family. It's all I've ever known is working for my parents and for a long time, but it hasn't hurt me. It's been good. But they had also a concession trailer, sold a lot of buffalo and elk and things, but they needed something. There was something else that Mom felt like we needed to give back. And so they came across and learned about, iridology and stuff. And they're like, this could be a great, great way to help people. And help them naturally, because
that's fascinating. I didn't know what it was, and I was telling my family that we were talking to you guys, and that's what you did, and no one else knew. And
right, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, that's a room of some pretty health conscious people that do, tinctures and make all kinds of things and make kombucha. And one of them is a nurse, and it wasn't anything we knew about. So I appreciate you explaining that. That is fascinating. It makes a lot of sense.
It's been around a long time, since the late 1800s or so, but it's an exact science. It actually was taught in Harvard back in the early 1900s. So a lot of things have changed. There are a few iridologists around today and herbalists. And here again, the goal is, helping people naturally. Of course, I'm not a doctor. I don't ever claim to be a doctor. I think some of my biggest battles, and I know how this has transformed my life, is it was a struggle for me because I thought everything was all about me and what I had to be for everybody.
Right.
And it was drowning me. And that's where Satan was trying to get me to shut it down and walk away.
Yeah.
Well, I got to realizing though, I need to come in with an attitude of gratitude to serve my Lord, to serve my Heavenly Father, like I said, and when I changed my attitude to serve Him and to help others serving Him, the more I've been into it now, the more I do love it. It's so wonderful because now it's not just about helping them. For me, it's a ministry platform.
It has become that.
And I don't have to see eye to eye with everybody because I see every walk of mankind and that comes into that store.
That you could ever imagine.
That you can, what he said. Yeah. And it's okay because all I want now is I just want to be this vessel, a humble vessel that the light of His love can shine through me. And I tell you, I just ask Him for direction. I ask Him, I'm like, look, I'll tell Him, I'm like, Yeshua, Yahovah, you know this person better than I do. Speak through me, use me. I want to be obedient. Yeah, and sometimes there's things that it'll spew out of my mouth before the brain and the ears can even hear it and process it. And I'm like, okay, I heard what I just said, but I didn't think about it, and then it'll be spot on because that individual needed to hear something that only Yahovah would know. And this is not something psycho or spooky. I mean, I trust him with everything. And anything that I can do to point them to, to him that's the goal now, and giving back everything to him, and just be there to just serve him.
Yeah, that's great. And something you said earlier, there's no doubt that in modern medicine in the United States, if you have a traumatic injury and you're bleeding out, you've got something terribly wrong, there is no better medical care that I want to be under,
they do save lives
like that. They accidents. And I mean, it's amazing what they do.
There's a place for it. But you bet.
The chronic illnesses, not so much. So I wouldn't go there, because they, like you said, it's connected to too many other things, that too many other people that have their hands in making money off of it. And, it just doesn't cure people. It's a Band-Aid or mask it. And that's what's so fascinating about what you're doing is you're really getting to the root and really seeing what the problems are. So,
definitely that's the focus. If you can get to the root to help people, I mean, symptoms and things start to go away, but the big problem.
But that's like half the problem. The other half of the problem is, what
the food,
with the food or the tincture or the herb, or what is it? What do you give them to help them out with their issues? And so that's the other side of it.
But what's creating all these health issues is the diets and the lifestyles.
Pretty much. Yeah. If you eat things that are not really even considered food,
now
things happen.
Have you studied grounding very much, like sleeping on the grounded sheets and things like that?
We've been talking about getting one of those.
It's so funny you mentioned that.
What him and I will do, we'll go out barefooted.
We get grounded a lot. Yeah.
A lot.
When I first started hearing about that was probably in 2012, 2014, somewhere around there. Yeah. It was all kind of this hippie thing. And I've been known, especially when I was younger, to kind of be attracted to the hippie thing. That was pretty easy with my background with kind of hippie parents. So, it kind of makes sense. But I was like, whoa, this is kind of weird. But I think there's truth in it. I am in the landscape industry, and I get the opportunity to dig in the dirt, to get my hands dirty, and to be outside, and a lot more than the average person. And I think there's great benefit. We're made out of earth, and it makes sense that we should be in contact with the earth.
Right.
A lot to it.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you listen to. Yes, there are some weird new agey people out there. So if you're interested in it, go see that, because it's bigger than that. Yes, there's new agey weird people.
Oh, they prostituted everything. No, it's not all that way. I've had a couple people over the years come in and ask me if I was a witch doctor. And I ask them, I'm like, well, that depends on which doctor you're talking about, though.
She'll do stuff like that.
I'm telling you, there's all kind of people that I meet.
We also deal with grounding with water as well. That's another thing. We have a little body of water that.
Well, also too,
outdoor.
What I found was when I really kind of started sitting on computers back in the 2000s, because I was never computer minded, started having issues. Long story short, it was a problem. The computer age, the cell phones were starting to affect people.
Yeah.
And with me, it was making me sick. It was making me feel bad. But then I could leave the computer and I'd feel better. And I'm like, okay, something's going on.
It's those high frequencies. And,
what I found is, believe it or not, there's a lot of things I've gone through with my own health and walk that have actually helped me guide other people. But Mom we buy this stuff that's called it's like a triple power hematite. Now this is my anklet, and it's all magnetic, and I've got a double strand. And so I keep this on my ankle, and what it does, it is actually helping to balance me also as well. I'll throw it back on there because I'm around all these screens. But there are some things and some tools that help keep us balanced. Because seriously, these cell phones and electronics, and with him, we had issues when we first got married. He's around electronics all the time.
Right.
His whole electrical system was so messed up. It has taken us a while to get his system back in balance. It was affecting his heart in the worst way you can imagine.
Yeah.
And now with just a couple direct aids and also going out and doing some grounding and stuff, it's made a huge difference. Right. And it's just getting worse with 5G and 6G now, right out there.
They just keep cranking it up. And
yeah, they do.
Years ago, I read a book I'm looking at right here on my bookshelf. It is Disconnected by Deborah Davis. And I highly recommend that book. It's going to be a book, if you read it, you may want to throw your cell phone away after you read that book. And, although I use it every day after reading it. But, that was a fascinating book because she talked about how all the cell phone technology was developed and based upon like a 6'4" soldier and all the testing that they did. And, no one ever did testing really on small people, small children, and what effects it would have on them. And it's a pretty interesting book. So.
Well, we just see more. Yeah. And we just see more and more how everything that Yehovah made so perfect.
Yeah.
That, that Satan is just destroying, it's prosecuting. Evil is so out there today, just trying to destroy mankind.
Kill, steal, and destroy.
Just prostituting anything that is of him, creating the counterfeit, the illusion, the delusion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad, but it's what people are falling prey to.
Yeah, and I think that something that Yah keeps putting on my heart this year is this idea of praying for our loved ones. We know so many people. Everyone has got people in our family that we need to be on our knees for every day that don't understand what you just said. They have no idea that they are in the battle of their life. They're in the battle for their soul, for their family's soul, for their children.
It's so true.
Yeah,
they have no clue. They're just, watching I like football, I like sports as much as anybody, but they get their bread and circus and they're happy and, they're like, whatever, I'm good. And
it's true.
Have no clue of what's really important.
Everything's watered down. Everybody's getting dumbed down. It's all about.
Yeah. It's that idea of, I didn't realize I was in a fight. And it's like, well, that's why you're losing,
That's exactly right.
Oh, yeah.
Spot on. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I always say too, you hear Satan doesn't just have to draw us, toward evil. All he has to do is get us consumed with ourselves.
Right.
And when it becomes all about self, the self-identity, the self-needs, the self-likes, the self-wants, my way.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes to pull us away from Yeshua and the truth. Yeah. And there's so many things in churchianity. I mean, there's been so many beautiful people that are in these churches that have a huge, great, devout love and walk for the Jesus they know and the Lord and God that they have come to understand, but yet they don't know really who he is because the church is kind of making it okay.
It's just like that vision I mentioned
keep
earlier.
1 foot.
I didn't know him.
Yeah, to keep 1 foot on.
I just knew of him.
Yeah. Yeah, the church has us with 1 foot, on the banana peel and 1 foot in the grave, I mean, we don't even know. We're just straddling this fence and everything's gray. There's no black and white for us. It's like we can be in the world and we can be in church too, and it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
But yet there's no definition. There's no, really.
Yeah.
And
we look too much like the world.
Similar to what you were saying and the vision you had on the island. A friend of mine early on in this walk, he was kind of telling me his story, and he was saying that he was outside of his house and he just kind of thinking about Yah, and I think at the time it was God and Jesus for him, and he's
right,
and he just had this kind of audible, tone that he heard that said, "Where am I?" And he was so stuck on Jesus that he missed the Father. You know what I mean? And
think about that too.
Draw I'm missing half this story here.
Yeah, because what does Yeshua do? He points you to the Father.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just amazing. Wow.
Yeah, and it goes back to the love God and love your neighbor, right? We're the church and us, we're real good about those are the two commands, right? But I think the church is pretty good about the love your neighbor thing. a lot of times, but
that's all I knew.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Instead of, and kind of miss out, and they think that the loving your neighbor is what it is to love God. I think that's kind of one of the traps that they fall into, and that I had fallen into.
Yeah.
Oh, we all were there.
Well, when you ask them what love is, they really can't tell you according to the scripture.
Just love your neighbor.
Well, but 1 John 5:2-3 tells you how to love each other and tells you how to love Yah, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
By keeping His will, keeping His commands.
Yeah.
And you're going to desire to do that if you love Him. If does it save you? No. But is it evidence that you love Him? If you really do, yes.
Yeah. And I've had people get really offended when I would say to them, this is what it is to love.
Yeah.
Love Yah and love your neighbor. And I would take them to those verses, and they get real offended. Right. And they think what I'm saying is you don't love Him. And it's like, no, I'm saying I know you love Him, and I'm showing you how He wants to be loved.
Right.
Since you love Him,
exactly,
you should be excited that I'm showing you this verse.
Exactly.
Right. Because He gives you a map right here.
Right.
And
we want to do what's pleasing to Him.
Right.
And His statutes, His Sabbath, His word, His.
We do. We desire that.
Yeah, His dietary laws and all. They're not a burdensome.
Right.
It's actually, I think once you and I, when we came into the Sabbath and all this together, it's just, I tell you, I can't wait for the Sabbath. It's like your system is just, it's in sync. It's just like, oh, come on, Sabbath.
And when I saw this little icon online on YouTube that said Sabbath Lounge, I couldn't wait to see what you guys were about.
Well,
I couldn't wait.
It's just awesome.
It's really cool.
Well, I appreciate that. And we actually kind of got it from, there's a guy that has a song, Craig something, and the song was Sabbath Lounge or something.
Wow.
Oh, that's neat.
I don't remember if he called it that, but that's kind of what, I saw that, and that's kind of, and I even asked him at some point, but he wanted a fee for the song. So
no. Yeah. Oh, see, there's something too that with the station, man.
Yeah.
Oh
Music.
Boy. Well, we'll get to that with getting people to respond, and when they respond, well,
I think the big thing is just submitting and surrendering. When we truly surrender everything, and then Yeshua is going to guide us. He's going to take us through to the changes. The pruning is painful. The storms are painful, but they're growing. And the changes.
I think we're a society that's too stuck in comfort. And whenever we're outside of comfort, we think that's a bad thing. When really that's where we're supposed to be to grow.
That's where you grow.
Yeah. Pressed like the olive, and then refined in the fire.
That's right. That's a good point. You look at most societies and cultures around the world, and we have it pretty easy. In fact, sometimes we got it too good, and so we don't have to strive, and it's an easy life, and we don't know discomfort at all,
and we do everything we can to avoid it.
Yeah. And a lot of the world lives every day with quite a bit of discomfort.
Yeah.
And we'll look at our life and go, "Wait, you don't have to walk to get your water? What?
Exactly.
It on and it comes." We just take it for granted,
we do.
Well, so I kind of wanted to go into another question here, and we talked about it quite a bit, and so what I would like to go to our fifth question here, and I'd like to know more about what's the kind of the purpose behind creating the Torah radio station, and what you see, what you hope to accomplish with that, and where do you see it kind of going?
I think one of the first things that kind of struck us, I guess, in our walk right now anyway, is that we really want to do what Yeshua told us to do. Beyond keeping the Torah he said to find the lost sheep of the house of Israel. he's given instructions for people to do that. And so it's one of the ways that I think, since I have a background in engineering and have been an engineer for years, I thought, well, why don't I find a way to get a station up and running so that we could actually, and we did, we actually had, I had the station running even before I thought of this. And it was actually
conservative talk
and Torah based.
Well, you were the Torah.
Right.
Well, you were doing this, but
yeah,
they
I had
were
a couple other guys
just
that
conservative
were not,
guys
that tolerated it.
Yeah. Yeah.
and so then they still tolerate me for some reason, which is great. We want that. But finding the lost sheep of the house of Israel has just really been a big thing. And
it is.
And not only that, but whenever you think of a Christian or Torah radio station, anything like that, you go to any of these Torah-based ministries, and some of them have a radio station on their site with all of their programs on it, and with just maybe one band or two bands, and that's it. So you want to listen to them 24/7, you can listen to their little radio station. I'm thinking, if I had to listen to me forever, I don't think I'd want to do that. I think I'd like little bits and pieces of it, but I'd like to hear other people's approach as well, because one person may not like my approach, but they will like somebody else's approach. Mm-hmm. And so I started contacting people. Well, first finding them. It's fairly recent that all of these people went online.
Yeah.
Because it was like pulling teeth to try to find musicians that are Torah-based, that are Messiah-loving Torah-based Christians. And same thing with I would say, studies. And so I started hunting and searching anyway. Well,
but before that, I can testify, it's definitely
getting the servers online.
It's definitely his talents and from his career base that has helped him be able to do what he does, because it's just amazing what he does with technology and rebuilding junk. He gets junk to work, and it works.
Yeah.
And
we're talking on junk.
But
it's true.
Literally, I watched him for a year. His passion was always to have a radio station that just served Yah. Okay. Right. And I watched him for a year as he started to just dig, trying to figure out, how do you put a radio station online? Right. What does it take? And he built this server, from the ground floor. And hours and hours and hours and hours. I was like, do I have a husband anymore? It's like he's married to the computer,
Well,
but I knew
that way sometimes. Yeah.
And I probably got impatient sometimes, but I think I was trying to be as supportive as I can, because I really know he was the workload that he went to. This isn't just, I'm going to have a radio station and boom, 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 here it is.
It's one thing to get
grueling hours in time to get even to where it's at today.
Time,
it's just
and talent and treasure.
I'm blown away.
Right.
I've been in tears with him over the stuff that he's been tackled with.
Well, I started with.
I'm so proud of what he has done.
Thanks.
It's just he is.
But it's him. It's not me.
I know.
Yeah, because I wouldn't even be doing it if it wasn't.
I know,
for him.
But it's amazing.
And so all honor and glory, where it goes.
I know, but still, you are. He is. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it's an awesome thing. And, something that, if you don't mind, I'm going to pick something here for you.
Sure.
So if you're listening to this, I want you to do a couple of things. I want you to go check it out and go find the live stream, and you can put it as a little app on your phone. You can save it in different places. It's real easy to stream and play it. So go check it out and listen to it. And then the other thing is, be thinking and be in prayer. If you would be in prayer about this, because it's interesting that Jake and I were just talking about this, and I feel like there's a need in the Torah community for something like this, and be praying about. I think there's needs for daily news, daily Torah centered news. Maybe somebody out there is listening to this, and maybe you've thought about doing something like this. We'll do it.
Right.
And I'm praying that there'll be somebody that's pricked and motivated to move that direction to help try to create some, and I will, as a reference, I've listened to They Are Not Torah, although I feel like one of these guys might be close, and that's Canary Cry Radio and Gons and Basil. And they do a news program, and something like what they do is they do it all listener supported. They don't do ads. They don't want to do ads. They don't want to have anybody feeling like they could own them. And so they just have people. They have people make them jingles. They have people make them artwork, all kinds of things, and they just put it out there. And they do like a value for value, and they ask for people to, if you like what they do, to support them. And but I think there's a lot of opportunity for some programming that could grow and develop and really flesh it out. And because I just wrote down some thoughts here, that you could have the news thing, you could have, there's a lot of survival people, a lot of preppers, there's room to have things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
and as Two Feathers described, hunting. I mean, there's things you could do with that, about, techniques and different things you could do. And I also wrote down even like businesses, there could be, a business or a money, gold and silver, or all kinds of different things. But, it just asks that you, if you're listening to this, think about some of those things.
There's another thing, like, for example, when you're at work, what's the radio station that's on the air, right? Mm-hmm. This one is. Well,
what you were kind of alluding to earlier, what we were noticing is that most people, they just kind of, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody here, but most people are trying to push their own site, their own subscribers, their own following, and things like that.
And that's fine and dandy.
It is. We're not doubt, we're not questioning that.
Because a lot of people
everybody's got a niche
doing this, right?
But what hubby has, his heart, my heart, kind of we're in unison together. Is this is that to have a platform that were many believers in Torah. Obviously, it's Torah. Hopefully, we all are believing in the
believers,
the Seventh Day Sabbath, and our Messiah, and following Him and His statutes and His ways. But to have that platform where the Torah family can come together and bring honor and glory to Him in song, in teaching,
We used to do a segment, though, called Prophecy Watchers.
Watchers Prophecy Spotlight.
Watchers Prophecy Spotlight. We used to do that.
We did.
And it was a news segment. Mm-hmm. So we would do a study, and then at the end of the study, we would throw a news segment out there.
But there was a day there wasn't but 5 songs on, and one teacher or 2 teachers. But I'm telling you, it was hard several years ago to find things. And as he's been more diligent, and he's been in prayer, and he's hungry, and he's been praying and seeking, and the next thing boy, more music has come around.
I'm actually going to share a screen too.
The people are the beautiful music, and Torah music is just beautiful. And there's diverse teachings. Do we all agree on everything? No. Are they dividing lines? I don't think so.
Right.
But for the most part, we believe in our Heavenly Father.
Right.
We believe in His seventh-day Sabbath and His feasts. We come out of things in the world.
And we may not have the same calendar as you, but we have a calendar as you do.
Well, we're growing.
Yeah. And you studied it and researched it and came to that conclusion. Yeah.
You got it.
Exactly.
You got it.
We're all at different levels, but it's just a neat platform where this diversity is, you can listen to it and and detach from that mainstream, music online or on the radio station that says, you can take the girl out of the church, but you can't take the church out of the girl.
Song.
And I cringe when I hear that. And I'm like,
so while we're talking, I'm going to kind of scroll down a little bit. And you guys can see some of the people that we have on the radio station. This is all, it's teachers, or should I say it's studies and it's music. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of both. And some of the stuff is just from different parts of the world.
We've got poets.
Right.
It's just an amazing diversity of talent serving Yehovah, serving our Heavenly Father.
Very wide variety of music as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of neat, and a very wide variety of teaching as well, or should I just say studies as well.
The talent here is amazing.
Do you have a schedule, or do you publish a schedule of when things are going or anything?
I did, but everything is, I'm kind of working on one of those. That's one of my goals, actually. We were talking about goals, and one of the goals that I have, look.
Oh, who's those guys? Look at that.
Looky there.
Check them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should check them out. That's right.
Exactly.
But one of the goals, gosh, what were we talking about?
Getting a schedule online that people can see what's playing.
So it is one of the goals to get a schedule that is live. I'd like to have a live schedule online. I know one other Torah radio station that's out there. They actually have a live schedule, and it takes a bit to do that when you're one person, because
maybe
department
somebody could help you with that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And so the software that I'm using. Let me go to some pictures also, since we're here. And let me see, I've got it right here. So I wonder if I'll be able to, no, I'll have to unshare this, stop sharing that, and then I'll have to pick up the pictures. Let me start with.
There's that where it's running what it looks like.
Yeah, that's what we're actually pull that one up live. Let me go ahead and get that one up first. So while we're talking, I'll get a live shot of the radio station for us. And that'll be kind of cool to see.
Yeah. And kind of, I wanted to mention on what you were saying earlier about when you first started having just constant play of your content. And that takes so much effort just to put that content together.
Right.
And then you want to put out accurate content. So, it
takes a lot. Right. Because I have to listen to everything. Right. And so let me go ahead and share this page.
I think it's similar to, recognizing that, it's not just our voice that's important. Matt and I, we can put out, our videos and stuff, but we recognize we don't have all the answers. We don't have all the, every topic. We're not the best on every topic. And
so you have your specialty
out there. We're not out there looking to build mega churches. We're the only person, and you can, we stream into everyone else's congregation. It's good to have a bunch of different people, I think. So I like that system.
It is pretty neat because like we said earlier, you may not want to hear me, but you might want to hear Sabbath Lounge. You might want to hear Parable of the Vineyard or some of the other guys.
Exactly.
Are you going to think exactly the way they do? Well, not in everything, but you're still going to see eye to eye in most things. So here's the radio station right here. This is live right now. What's on the air right now? The guy that's playing right now is his name is Michael Schubert. He's a musician in France. Has an amazing quality voice, and his music's just really good.
People from New Zealand,
right? There's
France,
from all
New Zealand,
over the place.
That has just been amazing.
Yeah, so that's what this list is. This is a list of all these people. It is a very large list, and so I have days and days worth. Or should I say, I have months and months worth of, maybe even longer, more than that, years worth of programming on here. And so it's kind of neat. It
didn't just happen overnight. And
it didn't happen overnight. I'm going to stop sharing this and go to a different screen here.
It definitely took time.
Yeah, it took some time and is taking time.
Yeah.
I was going to show you guys that little server that we're on because I think that was kind of an interesting topic.
Yeah, that was one of the questions we were going to ask about, kind of some of your equipment and some of the computer system.
This is how high tech it gets. Check this out.
Sharing one here. I don't know if you see it yet.
Sorry, I didn't.
There it is. Okay. So this is just a little Raspberry Pi.
Rubber band included.
Right, rubber band. That's just a rubber band. So what I've done is I've taken a couple terabyte hard drive and a Raspberry Pi and thrown that system onto it. And so the drive, right now I have the operating system on the Raspberry and I have all of the information on the drive, all of the music and the studies on the drive. which is kind of cool.
Hey, and those brackets look familiar. Isn't that from the solar panels?
It is from the solar panels. And
I'm saying here's
the server. I had to block some things out because I didn't want anyone to see what was in there. Yeah. And so there's that little this is where we're streaming to Shoutcast, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. It's neat. And this right here is just a little. Oh, nice. This is just a little edit suite. That's all this is. A little edit suite that you could go live on too. So it's kind of cool.
What is your? This is a nerd question, but what is is that a little mixer board that you have there?
This is just a small audio board right here. This one is
Behringer or something, or a Behringer.
Behringer. It's similar to that. That one isn't a Behringer. We're talking on a Behringer though, and yeah, it's kind of neat. It's a good little.
You have a picture of the big one at the studio.
I do. Let me go ahead and go to the next one. Let's see. Okay, this is just a little. This is a Raspberry Pi audio edit suite, and I was just putting it together here, and so I was.
Big one at the radio station.
This one is actually upstairs.
Yeah, the big one though.
But I'll get to that big one in a sec. They're kind of there's that little Raspberry Pi right there.
That's amazing.
This one right here, I put a little audio hat on it so that I could have some higher quality recorded sound. So it was kind of cool. It was neat. Plus, it has a little amplifier
it's
too.
It's amazing how much stuff can get put in that little tiny thing.
Oh, I know. Yeah. It's really hilarious. It is pretty funny. And there it is again. And you can see the size of it. It's pretty small. So I was using the Raspberry Pi for some of the edit suites as well, which is kind of neat. And this one is another edit suite right here that has.
And that's a license plate.
This is a license plate that
I cut up one of my old Indiana license plates to make a cover.
Yeah.
I mean, he just uses anything. He's like He's like a MacGyver.
I can make something out of nothing, basically. And so that's just a little edit suite. And we saw this earlier. Yeah, that's the Raspberry Pi that has the programming on it. Mm-hmm. It sure does. It sure does. And there, of course, there's the picture of one screen, and it's a dual screen system. And then, so there's the studio. This is the music studio right here. And I've got a little half stack there. It's kind of cool. So I teach music at this little location, but this is where the radio station is as well in Sellersburg, the AM station. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so there it is. Mm-hmm. And there's one of the edit suites.
Those guitars. Do you have that's not it. What was that? Is that an Ibanez or is that a
this one right here Gibson? Might be like an Ibanez right here. This one right here is a Gibson.
It's
an Epiphone actually. Yeah, from the 60s.
Epiphone.
Pretty neat. There's a bass and other things, but it's kind of fun.
So if somebody wanted to come do a live set, they could do it.
We do live stuff here, yes. And it's kind of, in fact, this is where we meet if we meet with other Torah people.
Okay.
We just meet at the studio, which is kind of nice.
I'm sure you're familiar with Rich Mullins. Wasn't he from Indiana?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Rich Mullins, you know the name?
Singer, songwriter.
Singer.
It's not ringing a bell with me.
I do remember. Yeah.
He played a dulcimer. He played a hammered.
Oh, that's right. Okay. He
was neat.
Kind of a hippie, he played barefoot and
That was the first Raspberry Pi that went on the air.
Oh, wow.
And there it is actually. And so now I use that one. I actually moved the server. This is the old server, and I actually moved it here to the home. And so I use this particular Raspberry to pick the signal up off of the internet and then broadcast from the server that's at home. And that's just when I was first putting it together. There's that little Behringer down there trying to play with this.
That's in front of your studio.
Yeah, just little.
I like those little boards. I've looked at those before. Those are good.
Yeah, they are good. They're pretty good. Mm-hmm. There's our transmitter. Yeah. And it's this is just a picture of it because we're actually transmitting at 1700 RP or 1700 kilohertz instead of 1440. But it's kind of that's what it looks like. And then the studio is here, and there's KMSR on the front there, and it's that right there is the antenna, and this is called a zero ground plane antenna. Yeah. And we only broadcast 100 milliwatts of power. That's all we're allowed to broadcast legally. And one of the reasons I decided to not go with a license or a high-powered license station is because they tell you what you can say and do. Mm-hmm. And if they don't like what you're doing, they kick you off the air. And it's not an easy format to deal with. And if anyone complains, well, it gets worse. So there's the little transmitter, which is kind of cool. And there's that antenna right there. And there's a little side view of it. There's a different antenna right here. This is a newer antenna that I'm presently working on right now. And it's actually going to go in the middle of the building, and it's going to be a lot higher than it is right now, just to give us a little more of an audience. And there's that little studio right there that looks like a mess, but that's the little radio station right there. And it's crazy, but it's this old soundboard right here. It's from the 50s. That was kind of a neat thing, late 50s. So it's high fidelity, but I actually have retired it since then and thrown something else in its place, but it was kind of neat. That's a picture of that you have. Mm-hmm. Yep. And there's the transmitter at the studio right there, or not the transmitter with the program. It's where the programming is at the transmitter on that little tiny thing. And there's the board I'm using right now at the studio. It is because I needed to have more inputs on a board with more inputs because of everything that goes on in the other room. Sometimes I'll want to mix them separately. And also it has many outputs too. So it's handy.
There's door closing sound effect on there. And
you betcha.
Yeah.
That's right. Applause. That's right. Yeah. And there's the new antenna right there, which is kind of cool. And at the studio, this is how it looked when it was running there. And now it's running here. So all I use that little Raspberry Pi for there is just to receive the signal from. And this was our first remote that we did.
Oh, we did that at Sukkot.
Right. Well, we were actually camping. This is one where we were camping.
Well, that was at Sukkot. Yeah.
Were we at Sukkot?
Yes, that's
really?
that's at Sukkot.
Uh-huh. Okay, that's cool. It was one of the first times we transmitted live, and it was kind of fun. We've grown a lot since then. Yeah. And I think that's probably it. Just a few more studio pictures is all I've got in there, which is it's kind of a neat one. Mm-hmm. But there it is. Yeah, that ought to do.
If I was going to make a Sabbath Lounge, it might look like that.
That would be the Sabbath Lounge right there.
We've had a lot of Shabbats there, and several people over the years, but nobody they just tell us Torah is not for me.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, but I mean, it's not funny. I'm not laughing.
Not ha-ha funny.
It's sad. It's really, but
even though we're going ha-ha.
Yeah, you can't
help but laugh. You'll cry otherwise.
You can't make somebody, understand if the Ruach HaKodesh hasn't, opened their eyes and their ears to truth. I mean, it's just, I was there one day, but it has to be in his time. If it's going to happen, he'll make it happen.
That's one of the things that we say. And, one of the things that early on, I kind of realized there's three things I think that are required if you're going to see Torah. And one is, Yah opens eyes and unstops ears.
Yes.
You have to be willing to admit you were wrong about some things. And the third one is you have to be willing to change the way you're living your life.
Very good.
All of the above.
If you can do those three things, I think you should be able to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've had to admit that I was wrong just about everything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Just over and over stumbling on ourselves, just to spite our nose. And it's like, it's like, why did we think that way?
I don't know, but we did, we really did.
Yeah. We're still learning, still trying,
Well, it was fascinating seeing kind of behind the curtain, behind the scenes.
Right.
It's very complicated. And it looks like somebody that would be like an engineer.
I am so proud of my hubby. I mean, it's amazing, this technology, what he can do.
It looks like when all the lights go out, you'll be an important person to have.
That's right. Yeah.
It's I say that about everybody that's studying Torah. When the lights go out, who are they going to run to? Yeah. They're going to need to know there's going to be people looking for you. And not just the bad people, but there's good people that are going to be looking for you. I think everybody's going
to bring a talent, should be bringing a talent of something to the table.
Yeah.
To become a healthy body.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, and where I wanted to go to is, how do people support you? What do you need from people? I think we talked a little bit before about some things people could do, but what are your most pressing needs? For what could you use people for?
Right. Well, let me go back to the site, and that will help us. Let's see, kill that right there. Then I'll open the site back up.
I found it really easy to get to your site, and so if you just Google kmsrradio.com, so it's 1700. You'll find it. It'll pop. It's the first thing that popped up. It says it's a Google site.
Right. And it's 1700am.com. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a KMSR1700am.com. That's how you find us. And, one of the best things to do to listen to us, you can go to just about any page and you can find a link. Yeah, we're running a little slow, but there it is.
There it goes.
Now, if you want to just listen within a page, you could go to this page that's here at Ask, Seek, and Knock, and you click on the little green button, and you'll stay on the page. But if you go to any other page, you can just click on the button, and it'll send you to another page that opens up with the radio station. And one of the best ways to help us is to get people is when you witness to somebody, or someone that's hungry, somebody that needs to hear something, you're on this station. So just use you for an example. Sabbath Lounge, you guys are on this station. And so what better way to help than to give people the link, and they're going to hear great music, and that's Torah based, and they're going to hear awesome studies and programs just like this one. I hate using the word program.
Yeah.
I would say, just stuff like this.
You're right.
And you can give them the link, and it's
just share it.
Share the link.
Share the link.
Yeah,
share
that's
the radio
the best
station.
way to help us.
And if you watch any of the teachings on Rumble or anything, or anybody's teachings, to say the least, any of them that are on there, share those too.
Now, we do have, on the site, we do have ways that if you want to give, you can just go to the bottom of most of the pages. Okay. You see a little donate button. But more than that, more importantly, sharing to us, sharing the link, sharing the radio station.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. That's an easy thing to do. And something I was thinking about was, I do talk to people sometimes that are under spiritual attack, different things are happening to them. And one of the things I will suggest to them often is, you can do multiple things, depending on what it is, but it never hurts to go find, like, even in YouTube or something, and you can find where people are reading the Torah even in Hebrew. And I think that's powerful, just to play that.
Oh, wow.
It is
video of the scriptures.
Audio scriptures,
Yes.
It could be, it doesn't matter the language, but I do think it's powerful if it's in Hebrew, but you could do this with this station, and just play this in the background, and the enemy does not like anything that's being
the enemy does not, and it's multilingual as well.
Yeah.
That's something else I wanted to mention. Some of the music is in different languages, which is awesome. Of course, since I'm putting it on the station, I have to see what the words are, right? And I have a history also in music, and
he used to be an opera singer in New York.
Right. I was an opera singer for years.
We're going to have you close with some of that.
So,
yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Well, the reason I mentioned that is because
we want like Guns N' Roses.
Right. That's right. Guns N' Roses. Right.
Sweet Child of Mine, opera style.
Well, one of the reasons I mentioned that is because with what comes with that is having to know different languages. And so at least being able to
learning Hebrew though, honey.
Yeah, Hebrew's great. And
learning.
So there was a time when I was singing in maybe 9 different languages, which is kind of cool. So it helped me understand, other people's songs as well. Plus you can just Google the words in English or just hit the translate.
Easy.
Yeah, if you're listening to it on YouTube, you just hit the CC button and it'll show it in English.
Yeah.
So you can figure out what the words are to most of the songs. And so it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat. The music is wonderful. And again, like I said, multi-genre. So you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Some of them are some of them are fairly hard. Some of them are really easygoing and soft. And some of them are like,
there's something in there for everybody.
There's something for everyone. And her music is in there as well, which is kind of cool.
Some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. But the main thing is just, share the link and just, I found it has been so easy for me to just share it, and because it's not evasive, and I just tell people just listen, pray over these things, and they can listen at their own leisure. And I said, there's just diverse teachings. You may agree with it, you may not, but study it, test it, take it and test it,
Yeah.
But the thing that helps, because, we work for a living. And so really, I mean, we are not trying to build we're not trying to build a big,
right. One thing I don't want to try
and
to do is to build my channel to support me. And the reason I'm saying that is because then I'll need that and it'll become important. And then I don't want to make that the emphasis when we're just seeking the love. Now, I don't dog anybody else for doing what they need to do.
Exactly.
Paul
There's
made an
some that are
argument of
doing
that
great
too,
out there.
In the New Testament that, hey, we got to make a living somehow, right?
Yeah.
And so you are worth being paid,
And one thing we're learning, or I guess I'm learning, is like on the broadcast page, or the archives, it's going to take you to Rumble, and that's where the studies and stuff that we do.
Right. We have archives that go to
Rumble,
that also go to Brighteon. So we have our archives there.
That's just where they're stored.
Right. As well as if you can also find everything on Rumble just by clicking on this link right here, the broadcast page, and then going,
click on the station down there.
And then there it is.
What is Ask, Seek, and Knock, right? So.
Ask, Seek, and Knock it's a little study that we put on Shabbat at 1 p.m. Eastern time every Shabbat.
I think this is
one of them, and it looked like maybe is somewhat interactive. You were reading the one about you're reading through Jasser, and it looked like maybe people can interact with you while is that a possibility?
There's a live chat.
There's a live chat
because we go live. So that's probably what you saw.
And there are times, if our internet's friendly enough, that where we can have live interaction as well.
We haven't done that in a while.
It's been a little while.
Yeah.
We have such hillbilly internet out here.
It is.
That it's touch and go when you do that. And we have had people on live, but it's still.
But we typically do go live on Shabbat.
Right.
And there's a live chat room in there.
Right.
And so...
And we're on Rumble. We're not on YouTube. We kind of have separated ourselves from YouTube. Now, I'm not suggesting anyone else do that. It's just that we have discovered that YouTube doesn't like us very much because sometimes we'll say the wrong thing and then they put you in timeout and whatever it is. So we got tired of that.
I tell you what I have learned is that, giving somebody a like or sharing a link or subscribing to them it does help the algorithms, help others that are searching for studies, about, Torah and things like that, whether they know Torah or not, it'll help them find it. And that's probably a big way of helping to support, his ministry. Like I said, it's not about us, it's his, and he put us
it's his.
He put us in a place, in a position, to serve him.
And then we also have a place
is exposure to people. Then sharing it is the top priority.
Oh yeah, it sure is.
It is.
If you're listening to this and you have a website or anything like that, if you do newsletters or anything, consider putting some links to some things like this that you like and support.
Right.
That we all appreciate that.
We sure do.
Yeah, because you're getting exposure to a plethora of other ministries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's really neat.
This right here is a little blog that we have as well.
This is really good.
On the site, you can go down and you can see where's KMSR news blogger. It's not all news, but it's also things, that we like, that we've watched.
Yeah,
and
put a lot of new stuff on here before too.
We've got all kinds of stuff on here. That's right. And so
homemade
this is
heaters,
homemade heater.
Yeah.
It's things like this. Redacted, something came out that seemed interesting and maybe important. Look at these guys. Check them out. Yeah. This was an interview you guys did with Steve.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool. Yeah, that was neat. There's these guys again. So, things like this.
Yeah, Steve, pull it down there. Yeah, he does some world news stuff.
Right.
And those will go on the blogger and also the radio station will play those, in random plays.
Right. Now, this little blog, let me slide up again. This blog I started in 2016. Mm-hmm. And so it goes a long ways back. It was back in the day when it was pretty much a news blog.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good. Yeah.
Something else that kind of came to my mind is that there's even opportunities for people to be, reporters, be your eyes and ears on the ground, in this radio station. There are world events, there are things that happen. And just like you said, this is a worldwide community. And every Shabbat, when we gather, we are doing this with millions of people around the world.
That's right.
At different times discussing the same thing, having the same arguments, and that's beautiful.
It is.
Well, and some of the people that know us through fellowship and stuff have sent us information on stories that have come out, and he'll post it on the blogger or something like that. So
we'll even talk about it sometimes.
Yeah, I was even thinking there's opportunity. It wouldn't be hard for you guys for other people to connect with you and even be boots on the ground, if you will, like on the border and things like that.
That's right.
Since it is radio format, super easy to take a phone even.
It is so easy.
Down and record something and get it to you. So, I mean,
that's right.
Even, because a lot of times there's the news and they're definitely programming.
And we've even gone live. Oh, exactly. We've gone live with the phone and you have high fidelity audio with your phone. It has great audio. And so I use several apps where all they have to do is click on the app or all I need is their email, and they can click on this little button in the email and they're live. Yeah. And so I can go live just about anywhere, and it's kind of neat. And
that's exciting. I think there's a lot of potential for growth, and like you said, it's not about people making money or anything like that, but it's about the kingdom and about connecting people.
Exposure, yeah.
That's right.
We just want what Yah wants. We want what Yahovah wants. We want His will.
We don't want what we want for our lives. We want what He wants for our lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's where we and same thing with the remote stuff. I can use my phone with the server, which is kind of cool. Now, let me show you. So I can just use my phone for the little server. Isn't that cool?
Oh yeah.
And there it is, and I can go live right here with just about anyone anywhere. And I could be anywhere too. I don't have to be here at the studio. I could be anywhere. And that's handy. We've actually done it a couple times, and it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. I tell him all the time. I'm like
interviews like at a college or something like that. I always thought that'd be interesting to do go to like a Christian college and kind of start asking some questions.
When I was in college, that's what I was doing. I was asking people questions, about what happens when you die, about food and things like that, and is there a Sabbath and what day would it be? Things like that, just the basics. And when I was in school, they actually gained a following there, and thought, wow, I couldn't believe it because I just couldn't. I couldn't believe it. I don't feel I'm that great with words.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, plenty. You hope to touch somebody to the point where they find the truth, and then if they find the truth, y'all open their eyes.
Just sow seeds. Sow seeds of righteousness and truth.
Amen to that.
And,
amen to that.
It has to be the Spirit.
That's right.
To wake them up.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hit you with this question too before we close up on you. So do you see any trouble spots in the body? So, the body of believers. So,
right. Well, we all know the answer to that, don't we?
Believers like worldwide or
anywhere, anything, anytime. Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah, we do. I think there's more trouble right now in the Torah movement than there is in the standard Christian movement. They all seem to believe the same thing, but when it comes to Torah, so many people they disown you for the smallest things that are not salvational. And I think that we were too hard on people in our past, in our onset when we first got going.
Well, I just got so excited about it. I just thought everybody was going to believe everything I said. I'm like,
this, and then it'll be over. Yeah.
Oh no! I had a bunch of friends, and then they're all gone now.
Yeah, that's what happens.
But I was so excited because I was like learning truth and all this stuff, and I thought everybody was just gonna just take it and waft it all in, and they're just kind of like,
I'm going to use
where
an
did
example.
you come from? And so I had to I had to start backing away too. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm like, this is just true. It's in the Bible. Don't they get it?
They don't.
No.
And it's okay.
I liken that to, like, my experience was I took my whole bag of seed and dumped it out, and I'm like, there, planted all my seeds. Nothing grows that way.
But I didn't know any better. I was just so excited.
Right, you didn't
have no clue. I was just so zealous, so excited.
A good example is one of the things that I've run into with other ministries as well, because I've asked quite a few ministries, hey, can you interested in having you on the station? And when I interview them, at the time I was using Yahovah, and now I use that and Yahuwah and whatever, and they correct me and say, oh no, it's Yahweh, or whatever they're going to tell you it is. And then they'll pound you with all kinds of, well, sure, it's Yahweh, it is. And it's Yahovah, it is. And it's
Yahweh or no way.
And it's right, it's Yahweh or no way. But they'll pound me with information that I didn't ask for. And they're probably meaning well, but oh my gosh, when I studied to get where I'm at, just like you did, is what I'm thinking. And so I get it. I do understand. I really do get it that you studied to get there too. Mm-hmm. But there are some
real convicted about it too. Yeah.
Yes, very. They are. Yeah. I like how you said that. But there has to be a point where we need to decide, well, is that salvational? Well, I don't think it is. And Yeshua, when he comes back, and Yahovah, Yahweh, Yahuwah, when he comes back, he'll correct us.
When Yeshua comes back, he's going to put everything back.
Yeah.
He's going to put it all in perfect order. He's going to get us all on the right page. We're all going to know.
He'll speak with so much authority too. We'll be like, got it.
Got it.
You got it. Yeah.
It's true. It's really true. We'll really get it.
I think a lot of times, like myself, just in myself, I see it too. It's, you'll say things in a way that's like authoritative, like I know what I'm talking about, and then you go back and it's like, well, I could have said that, like,
yes,
this is where I am right now, this is what I'm seeing right now. And
it's funny you mention that, because that's a phrase I've had to learn. Is this is where I'm at presently. And it is a phrase I've had to learn, because you're right, you come across authoritative if you don't do that. And I've had to learn the hard way by listening to myself as well.
Yeah, and I think we take a few choice verses, like they all did what was right in their own hearts, right? And then we go, well, that was the worst thing ever, so I don't want to be that, so there's only one way. And then we get stuck on, well, the way I'm seeing it is obviously what I think is right. So if you're outside of that way, then you're not the right way.
Oh, yeah. And then I think of my own heart, which is deceitful above all things, right?
That's right.
And so I need to put myself aside.
Yeah. Humility is the greatest teacher.
Oh boy.
To be in a state of humbleness and humility, it takes
We're
life.
on the ground a lot.
Life gets us there. And boy, we've been humbled over and over, but it's helping.
We're grateful.
Yeah. And probably still got a long way to go, but boy, have we seen him just reshaping and reforming our life and everything.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of wisdom in ministries like yours that really has given us some light as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful to hear how other people present their understanding or present the word. And I'm like, oh man, that's a great phrase. Or I didn't think of it that way, and it's like, I mean, it's just.
You guys do mean a lot to us.
The diversity that comes. The diversity that comes together there is, it's good, it's for his glory anyways. I mean, that's half the battle, is getting ourselves out of the way.
Yeah, and something you were talking about earlier, something that really drew me into this early on, is I had been in denominationalism and did the non-denominational thing, and chased all those rabbits, and it always drove me crazy how divided we were. The most segregated hour in America tends to be Sunday morning church, and everybody's in their own camp, and it divides on racial lines and economic lines, all kinds of things, and sometimes political lines, and and in the Torah community, we need to be trying to, like you said, realize that not all of these issues are salvation issues. They're not
right.
That you can allow other people. Don't disfellowship over the calendar, over how to say the name.
Amazing, right?
Exactly.
Things that, it's not worth disfellowshipping. Just like it's not worth losing your family. If your family's all Christian normies, well, don't lose your family and tell them they're all going to hell.
Can't do that. You got to love on them.
Yeah.
Or they'll never be interested.
That's right. And families forever.
Yeah.
So, you have to be careful in nurturing those relationships, but there is movement and room to grow and room to improve on, being more united, and some people have been able to be successful. We've talked to a lot of people recently who say, we're not going to divide over the calendar. We're not going to divide over the name. And we need more people to understand that unity is important. And some of these things are maybe unknowable, like how you say the name. It's kind of unknowable. And when he comes back, we will know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's
we
right.
will know.
I think, the point you guys were making about humility and recognizing, well, maybe I don't know as much as I think I do. Like Matt's saying, things that are literally unknowable,
right,
and unimportant to be known.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that, and
especially in our world today, our lost world today, that
is it ever?
There's much
more important things. Yeah. And I think one thing, just to bounce off of Matt, the unity thing, I think there's a dance that you have to take there where, it's not unity for the sake of unity.
Right.
But,
and
yet there are, I've heard it put this way and I really appreciate it. You have your closed hand items and then your open hand items. And, you don't compromise on the closed hand items and you keep those close to you. But the open hand items, which is most items that we're dealing with, have some grace there.
I think you're right. And it's important to know the difference.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And another thing I heard that I found very compelling too is, it's not like when you look in Galatians and things like that, we talked about denominations and, when you come into Torah, you're like, well, Christianity isn't the right way because look at all the denominations. There's only one way, right? And now you look at the Torah community. There's a million different denominations of that.
Right.
I know.
Call them that, but
but it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
And then in Galatians, he goes on to say, it's not the circumcision that's saving you, and that that's the argument he's making against the sect. And then but do we take that and then apply that to other commands? Are we doing that with other commands? And the point he's making is it's not the command you keep that is saving you. It's why or why not are you doing those commands or not doing them?
Yes.
And that should be the important thing, I think.
Yeah.
If you're doing it to try to be closer to Yah, that's the point. If you're not doing it because you don't understand, that that works.
That's Yeah.
and following in Yeshua's steps, I mean, what did he do? He kept the Father's word. He kept all of it perfectly.
Yeah.
So we want to follow Yeshua. He's the door. He's that Delet back to our Father. There's no other way.
There isn't.
And so if he's the example, he walked it. And he, if you had a red letter Bible and all you did in the New Testament was just read those red letter words, not see the importance of keeping, our Father's statutes and his commands is, if
you don't see that just by reading his words.
But there was a day I couldn't see it. There was a day I read it.
Yeah.
We were there.
And I was completely blind of it.
So we give them a link. Give them a link.
Yeah.
Link. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We have not to plug our own thing, but we have a whole series called Prove It, which is all New Testament verses. It's just a huge list of New Testament verses that we keep in Torah. So
that's going to be one thing that'll definitely get on the station eventually. Right now, I'll take like Torah portions, or I'll take some of your latest things or interviews or something like that, and I'll download a whole bunch of them, and then I need to process them all and get them ready because stamp out the dead air and whatever it is for everybody, right? And get them on the air. But that sounds like a neat one too, and I'll find it, and it'll get on the air too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yep.
Well, I know it's getting late for you guys, especially on the East Coast, and we've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and
we have to.
Yeah, we
really
have.
We do want to give you a chance before we get off the line here. Anything else you want to say? Any last plug or anything?
Well, I don't know if I need a plug or anything, but I would say one of the things that got me thinking years ago was Ecclesiastes 12, 13, and 14. And I had no clue what I was talking about until I read that. When I read that, it came to me, it hit me hard. I was a New Testament Christian. And when it hit me, it was, let us hear the conclusion of the entire matter.
Sums it all up.
Fear Elohim and guard his commands, for this applies to all mankind. Yeah. For Elohim shall bring every work into right ruling, including all that is hidden, whether good or whether evil.
Yeah.
And these are things we need to, if you think about that, oh my.
Yeah. Fear Elohim and keep his commands.
Because he's very forgiving.
To all mankind.
We change and we decide to do what he wants us to do, he'll bypass some things. He'll throw it all out as far as the east is to the west. Yeah.
Right.
True understanding, right?
It is. So that's why I said
very humbling, because every work, all the hidden will be revealed.
Right.
Everything.
Very much so. Yes.
And so I guess I could leave the folks with that and seek us.
This is the duty of all.
Seek him and come to KMSR1700am.com and get that little radio button in your phone permanently and share it. Share it with other people. You won't be sorry.
And the Rumble broadcasts and the studies and things.
And those that are interested, those musicians out there that are listening that are not on the station that I've probably already emailed. If you guys are interested, give me an email. My email is on the site on the contact page, and I'll get your stuff on the air. And of course, it'll be needing to be approved by us as well. Because it needs to be, Messiah loving, Torah based.
Get back to the basics and start at the beginning.
Yes.
And pray and pray. Right. And I pray that people reach that point of just surrendering.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let him mold you.
Yeah.
We can't be leaning on our own understanding.
That's right.
That's what gets me in trouble.
Yeah, we can't do that. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
No, it was great talking with you guys, and we're glad that we were able to get connected. And
it's been fun.
Just appreciate the work you guys are doing.
Well, we appreciate you all as well. We appreciate your work
too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just the fact that you're out there talking with other believers, it just amazes me. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It's really neat.
You guys are awesome.
Yep.
Well, we appreciate your support and appreciate you reaching out to us and getting us on your radio, and we look forward to the future. And we ask all of our listeners to go find you guys and to give you a follow and subscribe and listen and check out their teachings that they do. And we want to thank you for your time. And we ask you to stay on the line with us just for a minute. But Jake and I are going to go ahead and sign off. This is Matt
and Jake
signing out.
Wait.